How can you lose a jetliner? How can it vanish in thin air?
The signal disappeared. That was the unusual element. The fact that transponder, which was chirping back every time it was hit by the radar beam from air traffic control, went silent.
Every mystery leaves a trail, and artificial intelligence has just found the one left by Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Scientists have analyzed thousands of radio signals that were bouncing off the plane during its final hours in 2014. It is not that simple, though, because these signals were invisible to the naked eye, until now. Basically, the AI has mapped out a path that shows the plane flying for hours after it vanished from civilian radar screens. This new data points to a final resting place that is far deeper and more isolated than anyone ever dared to imagine. Scientists have spent 11 years staring at a blank map, but artificial intelligence just filled in the gaps for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The disappearance was a total puzzle that defied every rule of aviation safety. It is not that simple, though, because the flight patterns only make sense when you look at the tiny radio signals left in the atmosphere. Basically, this AI has rebuilt the entire journey from takeoff to the final descent. This new evidence is so compelling that a private search firm is already moving ships into position to find what is left. The search for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 has been dormant for years, but everything just changed in a heartbeat. Scientists have presented new data that points to a specific location on the seabed that was never fully scanned. What most people do not realize is that the original search area was based on math that has since been corrected by modern AI. This renewed mission is using the most advanced underwater vehicles ever built to reach the bottom of the Indian Ocean. This is the moment where the silence of the last 11 years might finally be broken by a discovery. The evidence finally points somewhere specific. More than 10 years after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished from radar shortly after taking off from Kuala Lumpur, the world is finally going back to the water. The Transport Ministry has now announced that a private marine robotics firm will resume a deep-sea search for the Boeing 777. More than a decade has passed, yet the story still refuses to fade into history. In 2014, a modern aircraft vanished from the sky, taking 239 people with it, and leaving behind the greatest mystery in aviation. Years turned into silence, and silence turned into unanswered questions that never truly went away.
We have no way of knowing because the cockpit voice recorder is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean someplace.
Now, this month, the search is set to resume once again as a calculated attempt to uncover the truth hidden beneath the ocean. After so much time, we have to ask, what has changed? And why does this new search matter right now? The disappearance of the aircraft was not just a small incident, but a moment that instantly unsettled the entire world. Shortly after taking off on what should have been a routine overnight flight to Beijing, the Boeing 777 simply slipped out of contact. There was no distress call, no warning message, and no sign that anything was wrong. For a modern aircraft equipped with multiple tracking systems, that silence was deeply unnatural. At first, confusion spread faster than fear. Air traffic controllers expected a delayed response or a technical glitch because commercial planes do not vanish without leaving a trail. Yet, minutes turned into hours, and hours into a growing realization that something unprecedented had occurred. Radar screens showed the aircraft was gone, and communication logs revealed nothing out of the ordinary before contact was lost. This absence of evidence became the first and most troubling clue in a mystery that would last for 11 years.
As to what could have caused this tragedy right under our noses. In an era when we have the internet, satellite, radar communication, it just disappears off the radar screen.
As the news reached the public, attention quickly shifted to the people on board. There were 239 passengers and crew, each with their own destination and unfinished lives. Officials avoided emotional language, but the number alone carried heavy weight. It was large enough to demand answers, yet small enough that every individual felt personal to the families waiting for updates. The lack of information made that waiting even more painful because there was nothing to hold on to, not even a confirmed location. What made the situation more alarming was how suddenly the flight disappeared. The aircraft did not report severe weather or mechanical failure before vanishing. In most aviation accidents, pilots have seconds to transmit a signal or trigger an alert. In this case, the systems went quiet without explanation, and that detail would later drive years of investigation because it suggested a break from every familiar pattern. A massive jet had effectively become a ghost in the sky within minutes. But here is the catch. The first confirmed debris did not come from a wreckage field or a sonar scan, but from distant shorelines thousands of miles away. Months after the aircraft vanished, pieces began washing up along the coasts of Madagascar and Reunion Island. These fragments were carried by powerful ocean currents across the Indian Ocean for hundreds of days. These discoveries marked a turning point because, for the first time, the mystery produced physical evidence that could be tested and verified. Each fragment told a limited but important story. Experts examined serial numbers and material composition to confirm that the parts came from a Boeing 777. This process was slow and careful because a mistake would risk sending the investigation in the wrong direction. When confirmations were made, they provided one clear answer: that the aircraft had ended its journey in the ocean. Yet, that answer raised far more questions than it resolved. The location of the debris created a complex puzzle for oceanographers. They studied current patterns to estimate where the fragments may have originated by tracing their possible paths backward through time. These models suggested a broad zone, rather than a single point, stretching across a vast area of open water. Instead of narrowing the search, the evidence expanded it and turned the Indian Ocean into a massive field of uncertainty.
And it was one of 3 pieces out of the 27 that was positively identified as coming from the aircraft.
What made the situation even more frustrating was what did not appear. No main fuselage section surfaced, and no large clusters of wreckage were found. In most disasters, heavy debris sinks near the site while lighter materials spread outward. With this flight, the balance felt wrong. Investigators had pieces, but not the core structure that could explain the final moments of the journey. For families, the debris offered a painful mix of clarity and doubt. It confirmed loss without revealing the actual cause of the event. The ocean was releasing small clues while keeping the main story hidden. Breadcrumbs in the abyss. The search for the flight did not end with the first headlines, because governments and private teams returned to the ocean again and again. In the years following the disappearance, one of the largest efforts was led by the Australian government, which coordinated a massive underwater search. Using sonar mapping and deep-sea scanning, vessels worked across tens of thousands of square miles to build a picture of the seabed.
The initial search was basically aircraft searching for the immediate wreck, looking for any survivors or telltale wreckage on the sea surface.
Despite its scale, that search faced limits from the very beginning. The area was chosen based on satellite data and flight path analysis, but those models depended on assumptions that could not be fully confirmed. The ocean floor in this region is rugged and uneven, filled with ridges and trenches that complicate scanning. Even with advanced equipment, large sections produced unclear images. When the mission ended without finding the aircraft, attention shifted to private technology companies like Ocean Infinity. Ocean Infinity entered the picture with autonomous underwater vehicles designed to cover ground faster and with greater detail. This marked a new phase where innovation was expected to succeed, where traditional methods had struggled. The company conducted a major search attempt, focusing on refined zones suggested by updated data. Yet, this effort also concluded without a confirmed discovery. The vehicles gathered vast amounts of information, but the absence of a clear target meant the results remained inconclusive. Investigators were left with improved maps of the ocean floor, but still no wreckage. This outcome highlighted a hard truth: that better tools do not guarantee answers if the starting assumptions are off by even a few miles. By the time the current search was announced, the history was already defined by these massive attempts. Each previous effort had narrowed possibilities, but none had delivered certainty for the world. The deep ocean was winning the battle against human technology for over a decade. It is not that simple, though, because the suspected resting place lies far below the surface, where the ocean becomes a world that resists human control. This region of the Indian Ocean is not a flat plain, but a maze of ridges and deep basins. At depths reaching nearly 19,000 feet, the pressure is crushing and light disappears completely. These conditions turn even the most advanced machines into fragile visitors. Sonar systems must scan through darkness, mapping the seabed by sound rather than sight, while autonomous underwater vehicles move slowly to avoid missing details. Even then, the images they collect are not photographs, but interpretations created from echoes. A shadow on a screen can resemble wreckage one moment and natural rock the next, making certainty rare. The scale of the challenge is daunting because the potential search zone stretches across thousands of square miles. Each pass consumes fuel and time, while weather at the surface can delay operations without warning. Strong currents below add another layer of difficulty, pushing vehicles off course and forcing constant corrections. This is why investigators often compare the task to finding a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is moving and the needle may be buried under sediment. Unlike land searches, there are no clear landmarks to guide the process. Teams rely on data models and patient repetition, knowing that a single missed scan could hide the answer forever. Despite these limits, technology has continued to improve significantly. Modern vehicles can dive deeper and stay underwater longer than those used a decade ago. Computing power allows faster processing of sonar images, while improved navigation systems reduce error over long distances. These advances do not remove uncertainty, but they shrink it into something achievable. The ocean floor absorbs mistakes, and small errors in planning grow into large gaps. The price of perfection. And get this, the decision to resume the search did not come from emotion, but from a shift in conditions that finally made another attempt reasonable. After years of uncertainty, investigators reached a point where timing and data aligned in a way that had not been possible before. One major factor is the weather in the southern Indian Ocean, which is known for violent storms. Earlier searches were often slowed by these conditions, reducing the amount of usable scanning time. This season offers a more stable window, allowing ships and autonomous vehicles to work longer. More time at sea means more consistent coverage, which directly improves the chance of spotting meaningful targets. Another reason lies in how search areas are now defined by AI. Over the past decade, analysts have revisited satellite data and flight path assumptions to remove weak ideas and strengthen others. The result is a narrower set of zones judged to be more realistic than those explored before. The company believes these refined regions reflect lessons learned from earlier failures. Technology also plays a role in how the machines are deployed. Improved planning software helps crews decide how to scan complex terrain, while better coordination reduces wasted effort. These changes sound small, but in deep-sea searches, efficiency matters more than raw power. There is also a practical truth behind the timing. Continuing the search earlier would have meant working with an incomplete understanding of the new radio wave data. Waiting allowed experts to absorb results from previous missions and test new models without the pressure of an active operation. When the team agreed to return, it was because they believed the search would be more focused this time. Every failed search in the past was just a step toward the right location. The crazy part is that the mystery has endured because a set of unanswered questions continues to invite explanation. Over the years, experts have proposed several theories to explain why the aircraft left its planned route. Each theory is built on fragments of data rather than complete certainty. One of the most discussed ideas focuses on a deliberate change in direction. Radar data suggests the aircraft did not simply drift, but changed course in a very specific way. This observation led some analysts to consider whether someone inside the cockpit altered the flight plan. Such a move would require knowledge and calm decision-making under pressure. While this remains controversial, it persists because it aligns with how controlled turns differ from mechanical failure. Another line of thought centers on an environmental failure inside the cabin that incapacitated the crew. In such a scenario, the aircraft might continue flying on autopilot after human control was lost. Supporters of this view point out that modern jets are capable of maintaining stable flight for long periods without input. However, critics argue that this does not fully explain the changes in direction observed earlier in the flight. There are also theories tied to a system malfunction combined with a human response that went wrong. These suggest that an onboard emergency may have triggered actions meant to stabilize the situation, which then led to unintended consequences. In complex machines, cascading failures are possible where one problem creates another. Yet, without the flight data recorders, separating a technical cause from a human choice remains nearly impossible. Public speculation has added layers of confusion, ranging from hijacking to secret landings. Imagination always fills the gaps when facts are missing from the story. After 11 years of searching and thousands of miles of empty ocean floor, do you believe this new AI data will finally lead us to the truth? Are we actually prepared for what the flight recorders might reveal about those final hours? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to stay updated on this developing story.